Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a 4-game Major League Baseball slate. Before I get started, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? Alright, so let's go ahead and get into this slate here. So we have, like I said, we have 4 games. What did I do? Oh, yeah, it's a 4-game slate. So we have Arizona, New York Mets, Detroit, Boston, Washington, Atlanta, and New York Yankees and the LA Angels. So this slate features 4 pitchers that we do like some. We also have some good bats across the board, and we do have some value on the slate, though it is pretty rare on this one. But let's go ahead and get started here. So we're going to start by looking at our pitchers. Now, Carlos Rodon is my favorite pitcher on the slate, partially due to his price and his potential. He's got the best strikeout rate on the slate, but he's tied with 3 other pitchers from that perspective. But he has the highest ceiling as he's got the best matchup here against the Angels, who really don't have a ton of options fantasy-wise here. So I think that he's a pretty solid option today, and he's probably one of the safest choices. And his price is pretty fair for the upside here with his K rate and stuff. So I think he's probably my favorite pitcher simply because of that. But if I look at some other pitchers, Gallen is interesting today for Arizona. He does have a favorable matchup against the Mets, and he has just as much upside as anybody on the slate. I do think he gets over 18 to 20 fantasy points today, but that's still his price point of $9,500. That doesn't make him a core play because typically when they're over $9,000, you want them to get in the 25 or so range. And so it's a little bit concerning there, but he definitely has the most upside of any of the other pitchers outside of Rodon on the slate. But then we'll look at Pivetta for Boston. Now he's got an interesting matchup here against Detroit. Detroit has hit the ball well in certain situations, and his strikeout rate is very boomer bust. In 3 of the 6 games this season, he's been over 8 strikeouts, and then 3 of the other games, he was under 3 strikeouts. He can definitely do good in this game, but he's a high risk, high reward because it just depends on which version of him we get. He tends to give up home runs, and Detroit does have a few players that I do like from a home run perspective. The other guy that I think is reasonable to look at is Christian Scott for the Mets. He definitely has some potential today as well against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now, I do think Arizona has some good bats in this one as well, but his 3 out of 4 starts this season were over 18 fantasy points. And he's faced a pretty good schedule here with Atlanta, Tampa Bay, Miami, and San Francisco. And the only bad game he had was against Miami. So he does give up some home runs. And even if he gives up a couple earned runs, as long as he can get 5 or 6 strikeouts, then he's definitely in play here. But he's definitely a risky play on this one. Uh, Pretty much the other pitchers would be Hail Marys at best. Kerr would be the biggest Hail Mary simply because he has a matchup against Washington, which is pretty weak, but he's still not a great pitcher right now, so I don't think he's a viable option, really. Let's go ahead and get into our catchers here. So we have a couple options at the top, one being Sean Murphy, or whoever ends up starting for Atlanta is definitely going to be in play. Now, he didn't start yesterday, and that was Travis d'Arnaud. And d'Arnaud has some potential as well today, but Murphy does have the best stats for any catcher, on the slate. The second option would be Connor Wong, and one thing that's good about this position is all the good plays are cheap, so you can save money at this position quite a bit. I do think Wong is in a good spot here. He's hit the ball very well lately, and he has a lot of home run potential. I also like Jose Trevino for the Yankees. Now, he's a little bit riskier than the top 2. But he does have some home run potential on the slate, so he's definitely worth a look here as well. Looking at first baseman, we'd like Matt Olson the best. He's also pretty expensive today, and he has struggled this year, but he's hitting the ball better, and I do like his potential on the slate. DJ LeMahieu is a good value play, assuming he draws a start for the Yankees. He's only played 2 games so far since being back, but he has scored fantasy points in both, and he doesn't need a ton at $3,300 to help you pay up at other positions. Looking at Christian Walker, he's also in play for Arizona. He's kind of a one-off option for them, but he has some home run potential today. Looking at our second baseman, Ozzy Albies jumps off the page as the best option at second base right now. Oopsie. Now he is high risk, high reward, but his price point is still expensive. But he is hitting the ball better, and assuming he can start getting some power back, then he's definitely in play. Though he's been up and down. Looking at Torres for the Yankees, he's a nice value play today. I think the Yankees are going to be a popular stack today, and he's going to be in that mix. He definitely looks like a solid option on the slate. And then Rengifo for the Angels. He's kind of a one-off for the Angels today as he's hit the ball very well this season. He's scoring a lot of fantasy points, Angels don't tend to score a lot of runs, and they got a tough matchup against Rodon, but he can definitely squeeze it in there. Though he's a little bit more expensive than I'd like for a one-off option. Looking at third base, Rafael Devers just absolutely jumps off the page with absolutely insane home run metrics today. I look for him to have a lot of opportunity for that, and so he's definitely a top tier option. Riley is also in play here, though he's been inconsistent and he's come back from injury. He's been a little bit rough with the strikeouts, but at some point he's going to hit home run and he's going to have some opportunity to do that today. DJ LeMahieu also can play here at third base, and so can Rengifo at third base as well. So third base is interesting today, but I think you could consider using LeMahieu there at third and then pay up at first base if you wanted, which feels a little bit better. But unless you can fit in Devers somehow. Looking at shortstops, Volpe for the Yankees looks absolutely great for this position. This position is very weak today, and it's not cheap either, so that's a disappointment. But Volpe looks the best of all the options here. Abrams also very interesting today. Now he's going to have the matchup metrics for the Nationals today were kind of risky because and aren't very complete because of the young pitcher that's going to be pitching for the Braves. But he definitely has the most upside on the team. And then Lindor, if he was to play today, which he is day to day currently, he would be interesting as a one-off option for the Mets. But he's also a little bit pricey. Looking at outfielders, Judge jumps off the page with the best metrics on the slate by a lot for home run. I do think he's a solid option, and he definitely has some potential today. Jarren Duran looks pretty good. He's a little bit overpriced here, and Flaherty can be good at times, but I do think Duran is a decent option for the Red Sox. I think Michael Harris is probably one of my favorite plays on the slate at outfield, as well as he has some good matchup metrics here, and he's only $4,400. Riley Green is a little bit pricey today, but if you like some Detroit home runs, he is definitely a way to go here, as Pivetta does have tendency to give up some. Corbin Carroll is nicely priced today. Obviously he has really struggled to hit the ball so far this season, but in the last week he's had some double-digit fantasy point games, and I think he can continue that. And you should buy him while he's cheap because at some point he's going to get back up to $5,000. Wilyer Abreu also looks very interesting today. He's been hitting the ball pretty well, and he has home run metrics today as well. Ozuna is also solid for Atlanta. So is Perez for Detroit as kind of a good option. And then Stanton for the Yankees looks decent today as well. We do have two sub $3,000 plays, and Von Grissom, who can play it for Boston at second base for $2,300, and David Hamilton for Boston, who can play at second base or shortstop at $3,000. Now, neither one of them have great metrics today, but they're the best options under that price range. Then I'm going to look at our stacks and our top overall metric plays here. So first, we'll look at the metric plays. Hopefully this shows here. Okay. Sorry about that. Hang on one second, guys. Okay, so my top metric plays are Aaron Judge, who has the best overall potential today from home runs and hits and stuff like that. But I have several guys I think have multi-hit game and home run upside, which is Abreu, Matt Olson, and Rafael Devers. So these are going to be my top plays in general. And then for some multi-hit options, Zach Neto and Brandon Nimmo have really good metrics for that. And then we have some home run hitters with Harris, Corbin Carroll, Wenzel Perez, Kerry Carpenter, Marcell Ozuna, and Jock Peterson. And then we have a home runner best option in Joey Gallo. So those are what I got there. But for the stacks here, we look at Atlanta, obviously, as the top overall stack, Olson and Harris, and then you can mix and match Albies, Riley, Ozuna, Murphy, Kalenic, and Duvall. Not a lot to differentiate between those guys. For the Yankees and Boston, Judge, Volpe, Stanton, Torres, and then LeMahieu or Trevino. And for Boston, Devers, Duran, Abreu, Wong, and Refsnyder. Both these stacks look really good today. For Washington, Abrams, Garcia, Gallo, Rosario, and Winker. That is a rough stack, but you could definitely utilize it. For Detroit, Green, Perez, Canha, and then Urshela, Warkeith, but I like Urshela better, and Verling. For Arizona, Carroll, Walker, Peterson, and then two of the three, McCarthy, Suarez, and Marino. Currently looking at McCarthy and Marino as the most favorable there. For the Mets, Nemo, Lindor, McNeil, and Martinez, and then either Marte or Beatty. I like the four, but I don't love the fifth. And then for the Angels, Ward, Rengifo, Pilar, Nito, and No Hope. I think that's a pretty solid stack if you don't like the pitcher that they're going against, which is Rodon. So, uh, but that's kind of what we look at today. I like Rodon a lot though, so I think the Angels are probably the worst case scenario. With that said, guys, thank you for liking.